is John Cardillo, Blaze contributor and CEO of SciID, social media expert extraordinaire. John, thanks for coming on. I know you've been watching this stuff all night. What have you been seeing on the social networks?
All night. I mean, obviously, being Miami-based, we've been watching Florida very closely, and that's a nail-biter. And I tweeted, it's like watching a Breeders' Cup race. It's just back and forth, 1 point here and there.
Yeah.
Obviously, watching Virginia very closely as well. It's getting interesting in Virginia with Warner and Gillespie. And no surprise in Texas. No surprise in South Carolina, obviously, and was surprised that Grimes was as competitive as she was against McConnell, considering the amount of money the GOP put into that race.
What do you think, John, is the mood of conservatives, true conservatives right now? Are they optimistic about the future now that things are turning to the right a little bit, or is it just real cautiously because Jeb Bush is lurking just on the horizon? Another sort of, establishment Republican guy who looks to be one of the front runners to gain the nomination, either him or Chris Christie. Are they optimistic about the chances of an actual conservative maybe winning the nomination for president in 2016?
I think most people feel Dana Lash echoed their sentiments very well about an hour and change ago. Today was the day to win big as the GOP and galvanize behind the GOP. Tomorrow is the time to bully, to really fight the party establishment, to entrench conservatives. And so, no, I think they're glad that we're going to win big. They're very nervous about Reince Priebus as the party chairman, about Jeb Bush and Chris Christie as the 18 golden boys for the Republican Party, and for obvious reasons.
They suck.
Praising Obama, and they suck. I mean, Bush is overtly pro-Common Core, pro-amnesty, and Christie, to me, is no different than Charlie Crist. I think he could change parties at any second.
You say that people are a little worried about Reince Priebus, but is there any evidence that anyone has not been worried about someone named Reince?
I think that goes back to when he first got the chairmanship.
It does. It's interesting to watch this because social media is such an interesting thing. We've watched it through past elections. Pat and I were just having a discussion about how this is like one of the first election nights where there may be a slight bit of good news when we've covered it.
Yeah.
And do you see that reflected in people? Because I know it was Suicide Watch on Twitter in 2012.
Oh my God.
Is it you're seeing a little bit of a change hopefully today?
Oh yeah, I mean the air is a lot lighter, right? I mean there's not that impending feeling of doom that we felt in 2012 when I think when Elizabeth Warren did it for me. That's what really depressed me in 2012. But tonight definitely much lighter. There's definitely this. Hey, we're going to win. We're going to take the Senate. We've got a good showing in the state houses and in the governor's mansion. So now let's focus on leadership. And I think what most people are very cognizant of, but also very concerned about, is voter fraud. I think it was Stu earlier, or maybe Pat, said that voter fraud was trending. And I know that it was mentioned on Dana Lash's show earlier. But I'm seeing that as a top 5 chatter item. We're very concerned about voter fraud.
John, can I jump in here because ABC News just announced this, and I believe it's yet another Glenn Beck prediction coming, but this one came faster than all the other predictions. This one was about an hour old. ABC Chief White House Correspondent John Karl reported that according to White House officials, the president will move forward with an executive order on immigration by Christmas. What do you see? What do you see happening with the American people, and how are they going to take to that? What does that mean?
Twitter is going to explode tomorrow in anger, and I think, I don't think anyone is going to be shocked by this, Glenn. One of the items I looked at for you earlier when I spoke to your producers was looking forward to 2016, and most people feel that Obama now has nothing to lose, and he's going to steamroll with a full-blown socialist agenda. He's going to go hard left. And this I think, is just the first shot.
John, are you concerned at all? Is there any way? I'm very concerned with anger. I'm very concerned with people who think that we're going to lose the republic, which, I mean, we're at the brink. The Constitution is hanging by a thread. If the Republicans don't play it exactly right, if the president just keeps pushing and pushing, you can only push people so far before somebody snaps and does something really stupid. You could have ISIS come in here and start shooting people at a mall, and that just just tears us apart even more. Are you sensing, is there any kind of a love movement that is afoot? Is there anything that is giving you a sense that the American people won't snap, that they will pull together here if things get bad?
No, unfortunately, and I think this goes back to a conversation you had a little bit earlier tonight with Jim Garrity about the Republicans not having a message. Unless they get on message and start to lead, especially their base, I think we're in for some troubling times, Glenn. I really do, and I happen to agree with you. Putting on my ex-law enforcement hat for a second, I think it's by the grace of God we haven't seen more of these individual one-off ISIS attacks in the United States.
John, last time the Republicans held the majority in both the House and the Senate, they completely wussed out. They just gave up any agenda items that they could have pushed forward because, I don't know, they wanted to be nice. They didn't want to be too mean. And we want to give them a chance. Democrats have no such concerns. Do you have any kind of sense that this time will be any different for the Republicans with the Senate majority and the House majority?
Sadly, I don't. One of the producers sent me a couple of questions, and one of it was, do you think the Republicans will capitulate?
Yeah.
And I said, basically, yeah. What they're going to do, they're going to go to compromise, and let's face it, a compromise is a big PR win for the Dems. So unless Boehner and McConnell all of a sudden grow backbones that we haven't seen for the last 6 years with McConnell and 2 successively with Boehner, I don't think much is going to change. I think Obama's going to continue to steamroll them as he has.
And for that reason, 51 seats is not enough. This is one of those things where you think 51 seats, will Republicans have control of the Senate? Oh, no, they don't.
Stop them.
They can
But
if
they
they
can't
all
push
stay together and don't fall away as they always do. You need to account for senators in Maine and Lindsey Graham casting a terrible vote and John McCain. If you get to 53, 54, 55, I mean, but looking at it right now, my last Senate board had us at 53. I keep saying us, but it's Republicans. I'm not a Republican. 53 Senate seats. 53. As of right now, the only thing that's changing that math is a potential victory somehow in Virginia for Ed Gillespie, which would bring it to 54. There's still a long way to go, but it's one of those situations where I think people are you have to step back and say, look, this isn't some gigantic wave where there's Ted Cruz times 53, and all of a sudden this is going to make a lot of sense to people who understand conservative values. This is an incremental gain. It slows down the progress of the Democrats and progressives, and at this point, you aim low. That's about all you can hope for.
Yeah, I mean, look, you've got a Republican Party that spends more money fighting guys like Matt Bevin in a primary and Ted Cruz in terms of caucusing than they do on fighting the Dems. I mean, look, they're tougher. If you look at a McConnell, a McCain, and even on the congressional side, guys like Peter King, who are continuously hammering Ted Cruz, they're not doing that to Dems. They're not doing that to Obama's agenda.
I happen to disagree with you, Stu, that this slows things down. I think this actually,
of course you do,
speeds things up.
Of course you think it's a worst case scenario. That's what you do.
No,
that's your job
but
here.
Honestly, there's no speed bump now. If the president decides to go radical, which he just did. Mm-hmm. John Carl's reporting it. So if he decides to go radical, he is no longer afraid of hurting the Democrats because the Democrats are off into the corner. He doesn't have any real love for them anyway. Hillary Clinton, this helps Hillary Clinton if he goes radical. He'll think in some strange way I don't even think he cares about anything except his legacy and what he and his wife have believed the whole time in the White House. Get in there, get it done. You're the transformative president of the United States. Now he is free to do what he really believes and actually really truly be the president that the hard left has always wanted him to be. The Republicans are not going to slow him down because the Republicans have proven themselves to be the worst game players in this radical political game of all time. So he's incentivized because the more he pushes a radical agenda, the more they won't know how to react to it, the more he will be able to use all of the tools at his disposal to make them look like racist, homophobes, whatever it is this time. and it will stick, which will only help the Democrats in 2016. I think he's. You guys agree with me or disagree with me? I think he's. I don't think this slows it down at all.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you, but I think that was going to happen in the last 2 terms of an Obama presidency regardless. And that's why I'm either super optimistic or desperately scared for the fate of the world, because Republicans have to step up, because they haven't in the past. But historically they have. I mean, they certainly did in 2010. It was a bottom-up movement. Ronald Reagan did it. Newt Gingrich did it in 1994.
Yeah, the only people, I will give you this. I believe in the American people. And if the American people now see that they have a Republican Senate and House, and there's no excuses, now's the time to stand up and go surround the House and the Senate, because there's no reason why those Republicans can't do it.
It's the only strategy.
It's the only strategy.
Obama is going to address the country either tomorrow or Thursday, and he's going to begin by saying, there are no strings on me, like the Avengers trailer.
Yep.
And he's going to have a very easy case to be made to his allies, to Democrats, and say, look, we don't know if Hillary's going to win in 2016. We don't know when we're going to get control of the Congress again. This is our chance to put our imprint on government and to, as you said, make it permanent, because we don't know what the future holds. And to them, it'll be seen as an opportunity.
He's going to
not as a major failure.
They cheer. The hard left cheers when he says, I'm just going to go around them. He's going to say, there's no way to get anything done now. We've already seen what they were like when they had the House. And they've already sent a message what they're going to do now. So I'm moving forward, period.
You may, in fact, see a lot more liberals start talking about how, even more vocal than they've been in the past, about how the Constitution really is outdated and has become a serious obstacle to good governance. You saw the op-ed in the New York Times about how cancel the midterms. They've become troublesome to presidents, and all they do is slow down his agenda or something like that. I mean, this is basically, we should have monarchy. We should have basically one guy in charge.
It's crazy. Okay, Pat and Stu?
Before we let John Cardillo go, who's been watching all the Social Network for us, there is one question I think that hasn't been answered yet, which is, has Lena Dunham tweeted anything stupid yet tonight?
No. Thankfully, Lena Dunham has not tweeted anything stupid. I hope we hear a lot less about Lena Dunham, and people need to stop tweeting pics of her when I'm eating lunch, and I'll be a happy guy. So.
John Cardillo, Sci ID, thanks.
Thanks, John.
Back in a second.
Guys.